Fake talk, fake talk, fake talk, fake talk, fake talk. Can you tell me what it is that you're living for? Can you tell me what it is that you're living for? Fake talk, fake talk, fake talk, fake talk, fake talk, fake talk. Can you tell me what it is that you're living for? Can you tell me what it is that you're living for?
So, do you feel have you ever like engaged in like a group project or been given a brief where you've kind of thought, maybe this doesn't really sit right with me, let me try and adapt it in my own way?
We spoke about this earlier, yeah. I remember getting we had this like we had to draw an illustration from a book, and we're given all these little books of stories, well, what I thought were stories. And I remember getting a book, and I remember being like, this is a bit rude, shall we say, a bit naughty in a way.
In what way was it naughty? Like,
yeah, it was just about nudity and stuff, and I just remember going, I don't necessarily feel comfortable about drawing this. This is not my forte. It's not my style. It's not who I am, and it didn't sit right with me. So I just went and got a different book, because they assigned us books, but I was just like, oh no, I've changed my book. I didn't even ask, because I just thought a lot of our course is about personal identity, sort of within the industry. It's like what your style is. It's what we call personal voice, and I was there like, I can't really and so I made the decision just to change the book. I don't even think my teachers noticed, or my lecturers noticed. So I just was there like, okay, I'm just going to change. But I know that some people find really comfortable to draw that, but I don't, and that's okay, because that's who I am, and other people can, but that means that they can, and I don't mind what anyone else draws. For me, that's just something I don't do. But I do appreciate the other artwork that is amazing out there that do draw nudity. I can understand, but I just was like, not my thing. But yeah, just things like that. Sometimes I just take a step back and I go, I'm not really sure on that. And I don't really like to draw quite murderous things or like plot lines with killings in and stuff. I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. I don't like horror films or anything like that, so I don't necessarily draw that either. And but yeah, so just some decisions I've made within the industry. But I guess if I was given something that was less gory but had a little bit of gore, I could try. But I don't know. I haven't got to that point yet where someone's like, you must draw blood, and I don't. So I don't know. I'll see when I get to that curveball.
And I think in the society, the multicultural and diverse society we live in, I think most employers will understand that anyway. You know, we are people, and I think it is understandable. Like, I think everyone can understand why an illustrator wouldn't want to. I mean, I don't think you have to be a Christian to be against gore or sex or certain sensitive things in creative work. I don't think it's always for a religious thing anyway. But obviously, when you have that relationship with Jesus, that naturally would influence your outlook on these things. And
I would say though that within Christianity, it gives you a different view on certain things, just within society, and not necessarily just within the creatives. But I would say within the creatives, I have noticed that that's okay. That makes you who you are. That makes you unique, and that is what sometimes employers or agencies or even customers are looking for, is that you have this sense of difference and you have this sense of identity. So that could actually be more of a selling point, which sometimes I don't think people realise. If you're good at everything, well, amazing, but at the same time you need to sort of narrow that down so you have a more of a identity that they can see themselves working with, and that they can see their work that they want you to do within that. So you need to keep a personal style, personal voice, quite clear sometimes. But at the moment, I'm going through a bit of a I don't know what style I want to do, because I love doing lots of experimentation and stuff. Yeah. And I've noticed that I'm like, oh, I've lost a bit of my personal voice. So I don't know which way I'm going with this artwork.
Yeah. I think that's important, that what was I going to say?
I don't know. Should we move on to another question?
Yeah, I'll probably come back full circle. But yeah, where have you had any sort of like loose ideas on what sort of illustration content you could make that would, in fact, first of all, how do you see yourself using illustration? Because I think there's many different lanes that can be taken in the creative industry. You've got Christian creative people who are like explicitly sharing the Christian faith or using religious imagery in the films they make, or the characters they have in their storybooks or whatnot. And then you have Christians who, and it's quite interesting as well, like especially when it comes to things like Christian rap and this whole thing of how Christians want to be labelled as creators. Do they want to be called a Christian something, or do they just want to be called a something who happens to be a Christian? If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm more of the who happens to be a Christian. Yeah. Because when I started university, I didn't go around. I did tell people that I was a Christian. Yeah. But a lot of people don't realise until quite later on. And sometimes that comes with quite big confrontations, and I don't necessarily like dealing with that, because it puts, how some people say that people put labels on you. Yeah. I definitely find that when you say you have a faith, that they put a label on you. And I've noticed that when I got to know someone and then they realise, and I say, just so you know, I am a Christian, I do believe in God. And I was like, I just don't want to be put in a label that you think, because a lot of people think Christians are like cucumber sandwiches that bow and kneel on a Sunday and pray and do some really old songs from like the 18th century. That is not who I am. That is not what Christianity is about. And I think that's quite interesting for when people go, oh, you're creative and you're a Christian, oh my goodness, and it's quite a shock. But I wouldn't necessarily say I would proclaim that, but maybe I should. I don't know. At the moment, I feel okay with just saying I'm who I am, so I'm Helena, and then just sort of saying this is my artwork, and then I say who is also a Christian. Yeah. I don't necessarily draw my work to have a Christian influence. Yeah. Although I've noticed that I do have certain options that I prefer to choose. Yeah. However, I wouldn't say I'm against people who don't say that they're Christians until quite later on, because there's quite a lot of like artists just out there who's like, oh, I'm a Christian. Yeah. And I think sometimes that can mean that they get judged more. Like I'm trying to think of someone. Oh, like Justin Bieber. So say he's come out and he's like, oh, I'm a Christian, but some people do actually judge him and go, but you're not. And I'm like, to be quite honest, I think your relationship between God and yourself is between you and Him. Yeah. And I don't think God knows your heart and knows your true self. So I'm not going to be like, oh, Justin Bieber is not a Christian because he's got his new song Yummy that is about him and his wife. Yeah. I'm not going to say anything against that. Whereas if I wish that someone wouldn't do that with my work and say that, oh, you're not a Christian because you do all this, when actually you don't know what my day-to-day life is. You don't know how I talk to God. You don't know how I communicate. You don't know how involved I am with my church. You don't know what I'm up to. I don't like putting labels on, and I try to not put labels on anyone else. I can't say that I've made mistakes and I haven't done that before, but I try to just love everyone as God would. Although it is hard sometimes when people are really aggravating you. But I would say I try within my artwork. I would hope in the future I could do something more Christian based, because I do have back at home at Redeemer King at the church I go to, that my parents go to, is there's a couple of creative people back in Chesterfield, and one of my friends, she's called Hannah Wheeler. Check her out, she's very good on Instagram. I think she's called Hannah Bluish. But she's really good, and she did some Christian work within I think it was a magazine or something, and then she created children's books that help explain Christian story. And I just think she's so lovely, and I think that she dabbles from Christian stuff to non-Christian stuff.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, but then she's also involved in quite a lot of local stuff. So in Chesterfield, there's a magazine called S40, which is our like postcode, and it's called S40 Local. And she does a lot of front cover designs or illustrations within this little magazine that goes round, and just things like that. I find really, really interesting and things like that. And then we have this place in Chesterfield called Monkey Life Park that's like a cafe, and I know a lot of creatives go there just to get to know each other and stuff like that. I mean, Chesterfield is not like Manchester, where you have like huge markets and stalls full of illustrative people and designers of all kinds of styles. But I just think that basically I'd like to do something in the future, but I do find my faith is quite personal, so I don't know if I'll massively express it, because I don't want people to start judging me. Just because it is something so personal between me and God.
And it's a pressure, and I think this is something that unfortunately happens a lot in the church, which is when an artist claims their faith, automatically you uphold them to a certain standard. And you're expecting, okay, so we're expecting them to stand up for every social issue through a Christian lens. And if they do something that's contrary to what is biblical, then they're doing something wrong, and God should depromote them or whatever. And it's really, I think people forget the stories in the Bible when they say that. Because when you look at the imperfect people that God uses in the Bible, such as King David, for instance, the fact that he arranged the death of one of his soldiers and slept with his wife, but we still, when you think of King David, you still think of him as what the Bible describes as a man after God's own heart.
For sure.
And it's taking things out of context, and people, especially with social media, where we can take an aspect of a person and create a whole narrative around that. People really forget the context of how God uses imperfect people for an incredible purpose. And I think that we should definitely consider that when we, like you said, look at artists like Justin Bieber and even Kanye West as well. So, it's not just, I think it's just our perception of what it means to be Christian. We need to really sort that out, because God uses everyone. And when you look at the genealogy of Jesus as well, you see people like Rahab the prostitute. You see people you see tax collectors. You see people who manipulated others for personal gain. So, really understand how, let's learn to see people the way God sees them.
And I do think that a lot of people actually they sort of idolize those people if they do proclaim that they have a religion. And I think that that's really bad to do, because I've always been one to not really try and idolize any like boy band or like a celebrity. Sometimes I do get really interested in things, but I know that I'll not be interested in them for long, because it's not good to have idols. However, I do think that some people almost like when they proclaim that they have a religion and they say that they do, people start to treat them as if they are Jesus, like they give them that much authority. And I'm like, no, they are human, they're gonna make mistakes. Don't try and be like, we must do whatever they do as well, we must do the exact same, we must follow their lead. And I'm like, no, there was only one Jesus, as I have been told. I'm like, and that person is not them. Yes, they I don't know, they've created a mass song that looks really good, they're gonna have a downfall. Everyone does. Everyone has a little slip up now and again. And I just think I don't want that pressure in my creative industry. Not that I'm ever going to get famous like that. I don't think anyway. Unless God wants me to. But I think that God has his way. And I think that to proclaim your faith is good. And I think it is good to say and to do things that are to show a different view or a different design way of showing, a different way to show design by through your faith. However, I would say I don't necessarily want to be judged, but then at the same time you've got to tackle those fears. But I don't want people to idolize people. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
And it's a whole other world, sort of.
Yeah.
You get so caught up in different things, and I think it's so bad. And I pray that some people just don't do that, because I'm just like, there's more to life than that. They're going to age someday. They're not going to be there in the world. I'm like, and you're going to be like, what have I done with my life following these people? When actually you need to be enjoying yourself and be happy. And I think everyone should believe in God, because it's true. It is. So I hope some people will.
Yeah. So you said you wanted to be... Obviously, your ambitions can change.
Yeah.
But as of now, you're thinking maybe children's storybook illustration.
Yeah.
Any other ideas about what you want to do and how you want to do it?
I do have an idea, but if anyone comes and steals this idea, I'm going to copyright you so bad.
Yeah. The evidence is on tape, so this will stay on the internet forever.
It is. So. What is it? The 17th of January. Do not steal my idea. 2020. And so I follow someone online, and her name is Emily Coxhead. I don't know if you've heard of her. I
think you told me about her.
Yeah, and she has this newspaper. I always want to call it a magazine. And it's called The Happy Newspaper. And I love what this Happy Newspaper does. It is like a seasonal newspaper that comes out and you can buy it.
Yeah.
And it shows all of everything that is good that has happened in the world.
Yes.
And I know that sometimes...
positive news, basically.
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of Christians, a lot of Christians, as Christians, you are meant to pray about what's bad and what's not working out well. And I do think that is crucial within faith. You need to pray for what has gone wrong, and you need to pray for help and support from God. However, I do think we need to praise God as well.
Yes.
And
we can be the solution. We are the good news that we can bring. Can be a very practical solution to the world's issues. I would like
to do something like that, where it was something more Christian based, or maybe something it's like a prayer newspaper or something. Because I sometimes am there, I'm like, well, today I feel okay. I don't think anything else is going to come up. But, I don't think there's going to be a giant curveball in my life anytime soon that something bad happens. But you can't predict life, so I think something like that would be nice, like a newspaper. I'd love to do some books on Christianity, just some illustrations, maybe even for a newspaper. But I've got I want to say minister, but I don't even know if he wants to become minister. Our leader at church is Carl Beach. He's done a couple of stories and used to work for CBM, which is Christian Vision for Men, and that is actually based in Chesterfield. So, whoop whoop. But I wish there was something out. I don't know if there is, but I haven't seen anything out there for men, because it's Christian Vision for men. I'm like, what about women? Because I always find that a lot of people think that Christians are just women anyway, are just stay-at-home mums, and I'm like, no, I don't like that. And
again, if people read their Bible properly, you'd see that God can use women in a mighty way. So
so I don't necessarily think...
Do your research.
But I do notice that a lot, and I'm just like, no, that's not my idea of what I want my life to be. I don't have a vision. I don't think God has that in my plan, but you never know. I'm not going to say no to it. However, I'd love to do something like that. I love what Fusion is doing. I went to an event actually because I was feeling a little bit lost, and there was an event on leadership within students. And I don't see myself as a leader, but apparently I do have leadership skills, and I was like, oh, so a guy
people have told me that as well.
So I went to I go to St. Werburgh's in Derby, and that's a really good church. And
shout out St. Werburgh's, woo! Where all the young Christians go.
A swarm of Christians just arrive at St. Werburgh's. But it's a really good church, and their student teams are brilliant there. They're really, really good, and they've helped me a lot out this year. And the student pastor there, Andy, has been really good, and he said, oh, just come along to this event. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I heard of Fusion because they helped me when I started coming to uni, and I took it was like a student guide, and it said how to get involved within a church at uni, how to deal with certain situations at university. And it was really good. And I went to this event, and I just remember being like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, because I've been feeling that sometimes at uni I say you have like blue moments where you're like, what am I doing with my life? Oh. And that happened a lot last semester. And when I went to this fusion event, it was so good. I've never felt so sort of like, relieved. I'm feeling a lot more calm. And I remember being like, I found my identity in Christ.
Yes.
I need to remind myself about that.
Yes.
And
it's not in what you do. It's not in your profession.
Yeah. And some of the conversations that they had, like, they had this image of, on one of the talks, I can't remember the lady's name, so sorry, I'm not stealing your idea. But she said that within the world, you have it. We are like a bit like this. Is it Starship Battles and Star Wars? You know, the little round ones with the little circle.
Yes. And
she says that we are like them, and that we have so many layers within, and then we have our core identity of who we are. And you know how they in the film, spoilers alert, they destroy the ship, and it's because they shoot at it and then they hit the center, don't they? And it sort of all falls apart. And they were saying it's a bit like that. So you have this circle, and then you start having little cracks of things where you go wrong, and then all of a sudden you get hit by something quite huge.
Yes. So
some downfall that you might have, or something's gone wrong. You've made a mistake within life, and that sometimes it can shake you to your core, and that can be really bad. And I just thought, yeah, that is what can happen. And they were saying how there was different sections within the layers of who you are, and how you need to protect it and how to protect it. And I thought that was really good. And I just remember being surrounded by Christians for a day, and I was just like, this is just what I needed. I'd felt so lost and so sort of like, where am I? What am I doing? Who am I? And I remember being like, no, this has really helped. I remember saying to Andy as we're leaving, like, that was, I needed that. I really did. And I didn't know I needed it, because I was there like, I have a car, and I was like, I can just help by giving lifts. I know Sheffield area. I can drive us there from Derby, Sheffield. And actually I was like, no, he saw that I needed it. And I'm really grateful that he showed me that. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm so glad I went. It was a really good opportunity. I learned a lot from the event, and it was, even though I don't necessarily see myself as a leader, but if the option's there and I can try with an opportunity, I will. Yes. And I also think it's quite interesting to see how within churches, how people become a leader, and that we need to accept that they're not perfect. No one's perfect. And don't put all that pressure on them to be perfect, because sometimes that's what does make the mistakes happen. Yes. There was a song, I can't remember which song it was, and some guy had written it, and it was really, really prophetic song. And then it turned out that he was actually cheating on his wife. And so everyone's like, you can't use the song. It's you can't use it. And we were talking about this at the St. Werburgh's in the student night, like, why use it? And they were like, it doesn't mean it wasn't prophetic, the song. It doesn't mean it in that moment when this guy was creating this song and writing about it. It doesn't mean it has less meaning. It means it could have more meaning. Yeah. Because it's a song from what happened then, not what's happened now and what mistakes he's made. And yes, he may step down from leadership from cheating on his wife, I think, but for me, that's really interesting to see how some churches go, oh no, we can't use that because there's nothing.
And the other interesting thing as well, and this is the amazing thing about the gospel, Jesus clarified that sin isn't just in the things that you do, it's in the attitudes in your heart.
So things such as change.
So he even said things such as, if you look lustfully at a woman, that's like committing adultery in your heart. So God doesn't, again, like you said, it's all about the core. What comes from the core will come out. So if you do wrong things, that's because there's been something bad in your core that's gone there in the first place. Yeah, exactly. And all of us, and just because I can't physically see on the outside you doing bad things doesn't mean you don't have a bad core. So I can only imagine how many men or even women are struggling with lust in their lives privately. And when I say this, I include myself. I've struggled with it as well. You know, it's when you look at someone else's sin, that's you looking at yourself. Yeah, because you have the same iniquities. it comes out in different ways in our lives, but we all have the same root issue, which is sin. So when you look at someone in a scandal in the church who's done something wrong, try and put yourself in that position. Ask yourself honestly, if I had as much influence as this person, if I was exposed to the same things, might I have done the same thing, or might have I done something even worse? Because we do deal with the same iniquities, and Jesus judges us the same. God judges us the same.
But if someone makes a mistake, I always try to say, in my head sort of thing, I'm always like, oh, okay, they've done something wrong. But I'm like, I try not to judge, because I'm like, I'm not here to judge. Yeah. I should be praising God instead. And actually, I'm not the one who's going to judge in the end. I don't get the final say. I don't get the final call. That is God's decision. Yes. If I want God to be that rash with me, I should not do that. So exactly. I think someone else. And I'm actually quite grateful that God has that decision, because I could not deal with that. And I think that's really a powerful thing to think about in life, is that I should not judge. I know it's everyone judges by accident. Yeah. Like, you can be like, oh, I don't like the look of that sandwich. Yeah. You know, I don't know. Yeah. But it can be the same as how you look at someone else. Like, oh, I don't think that top and that trousers don't go very well together. And then, oh my goodness, I've judged. You're not perfect. You're not going to be perfect. So I try not to be exactly like Jesus, but I try to aspire and look up to him. And I think that's the difference between, sort of judging and actually aspiring to. Yeah. Because I think judgment in the end of the day is going to be God's final call, not mine. Yes. So I just give it all to him, not to decide. It's not for me to say. Sometimes I'm like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. And, some people may judge me, but I try to just ignore it and just sort of go, if they want to judge me for who I believe, then fair enough. Yeah. It's your decision. It's not mine. So. Yeah.
Final discussion point. Let's try and make this brief. What would you like to see the church do more generally in engaging popular culture? Have you had any thoughts about, it would be nice to see more Christians in that area or doing this thing to really address...
This is a new question.
Yeah.
So Christians within, what is it? Within?
Just either within just creative industries in general, or maybe you could branch it out to like politics. You can...
Yeah, I do think Christians can't be very political in a way. Like they can, but they can't. You can't really be like, you sway to this side of the political argument. No, everyone's each to their own. And I know that, but I do think that maybe we could have a different viewpoint. And I always think that I like to capture what is happening within the world, what's happening today, what am I doing in my day-to-day life. Yeah. And I do think that sometimes needs to be taken note of and taken care of. Like, say you see, within Derby, I've seen a lot of homeless people, and there's a lot of stuff like that. And I see a lot of people trying to help them and stuff. And but I see how much we're actually doing for them, and I'm really grateful for some of the Christian teams out there.
Shout out Derby City Missions and the work they do.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sort of the night shuttles and stuff, the soup kitchens, everything. And I can see people doing that, but I think we could be a bit more driven in helping them. And I don't necessarily... I also think a lot of people need to... we're always evangelising, but I'm not the best at this, so I struggle with that. So that would be something I'd love to do more, because I don't... Like I say, I don't really tell people that I'm a Christian, but maybe I do need to, because I'm like, I need to help people and save them. And sometimes with people, that is just showing them love and showing them forgiveness and not judging them, and trying not to be so selfish and to put other people first.
Yeah. And not being embarrassed about associating ourselves with them either. Especially, again, in the creative industry, when you think about who you collaborate with, obviously you will not be working with people who believe the same things as you.
Yeah, exactly.
But having the humility to say, I'm not too concerned about what other Christians perceive of me if I collaborate with this artist or with this person who seems to have a certain reputation.
So
because I'm not living for approval, I'm living for being in the field and winning souls for Christ ultimately.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But I definitely would say within creative industries, we don't necessarily get involved in our own way. So we could help. We could be hands-on and draw. We could be hands-on making soup. We could be hands-on at the night shelter. But actually within the creative industry is we draw everything down on paper. Why are we not capturing this? Why are we not capturing it?
Yeah.
Why are we not showing
what
this?
are we bringing to the table?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, we can help. Yeah, we can do that. But sometimes we help in such a different, more meaningful way, and we can connect to other people. That might be quite different. I'm not saying that helping people and being more hands-on is less meaningful, but I'm just saying that there's different ways of getting people's attention.
Yes.
And I think that'd be quite interesting to see how other people would do that. And I think, things like global warming, I see Christians sort of doing their own choice, but I don't see a whole church doing like eco-friendly sort of days, or going to help with recycling and doing loads of like litter picking or something. Like I saw loads of photos like from the 90s when everyone would go out litter picking, but not anymore. But just things like that. And I'd say definitely political sort of, we don't really, but I don't think when you know who your true leader is and who your true God is, I don't think politics, it's hard to sort of choose or decide, I think. So I wouldn't necessarily get involved in that. But I'm trying to think of other things in life that, like, I always like to capture everyday life of what just life is like, pottering about, making a cup of tea, just things like that, and doing your washing, I don't know, you making food, and just things like that. I think it is quite interesting to see how other people and how the families work, not just because of cultural difference, but maybe because of religion. But I do see that in illustration, sort of. But yeah, what do you think in the creative industry? Do you see any faults or sort of ways that we're not getting involved as our identity as designers but who believe in Christ?
I feel like we're living in an age where, obviously through the internet and through how easy it is to just be independent in terms of putting out content, there's so many opportunities. But I think, for me, when I think about this, I'm very knowledgeable of Christian rap specifically, because that's something I engage.
I am not knowledgeable on Christian rap, so I'm sorry.
So it's a tricky thing, because we were talking a little bit earlier about the Christian label of something.
Yeah.
So just the label of Christian hip-hop, it's got a very long, complicated history. And there was a video from this sort of Christian rap journalist sort of media company or organization called Track Stars. They're like a media group, and they've been kind of reporting and covering Christian hip-hop for many years now. But they just released a video saying, what is Christian hip-hop really? Because there's this thing of, a lot of people see Christian hip-hop as like a subgenre in itself. It's a separate genre. Yeah. And then there's another side to the argument, which is, okay, how far do you take that argument? Are you going to look at a plumber who is a Christian and say, yep, that's a Christian plumber? Yeah. And then we don't see companies called Christian Plumbers Limited or something.
Yeah.
So it's the whole idea of how do we label what is what? And Christian hip hop, when I think of it, I think more of it as a community of people. So it's not a subgenre, but it's a community. But what I'm thinking is, like, how are we defining our own culture? Because when I listen to a lot of Christian hip hop today, there's a sound, the sounds that you hear, they just emulate what's already in the rap game.
Yeah, I do
You
think
already,
that.
like, the trap beats, the tempos, the instruments, they all sound very much. And to be very fair, like, a lot of the songs, the content, it kind of, in order for you to categorize it as a Christian hip hop song, you have to actually know if the artist is Christian, if that makes sense. Just because they don't have swearing in their music doesn't automatically make it explicitly a Christian hip hop song. Because there's a lot of Christian rappers, they're honest in their music first and foremost. So they still rap about their relationships. They still rap about having a good time. And if you didn't know about the artist, how would you be able to label that as Christian hip hop? So what I'm saying is, what are we as Christian people, even in the crafts that we're doing, even in the instruments and the styles that we choose to use, how are we being distinctive from the rest of the world? So instead of looking at the mainstream and copying what they do and just putting a Christian message on top of that, how are we actually changing the fabric? How are we actually being innovators in the world? How are we making our own sound? How are we making our own
I would agree
style?
with that. I think that's very much within the whole creative industry, because I do not know anything about rap. I cannot.
But I mean, that's just a case study.
I would say for sure that I think we need to all create our own paths.
Yes.
And then, but how do we make that different from everyone else's as being Christians?
Yes.
But you can't. I don't know. For me, within art, I'm like, how can you make a genre that is Christianity? Because at the same time,
I'm not even talking about genre. I'm just talking about how do we become innovators? Like in the same way, Bill Gates was an innovator in the history of computing, and even just like the people who create new art movements. When you think about the people who have innovated styles and innovated business models and innovating companies, people don't think of Christians, and that affects me because I'm thinking we serve a creative God. Yeah. And he
created everything that was new and good.
Yes.
Why are we not?
Yes. And why aren't we reflecting the creative nature of God in terms of actually innovating new ways of doing things in the wider world? Like, I want to see more Christians be part of that, basically. So I'm praying that God will help me do that, because I'm even thinking of like animated series. I mean, I'm thinking of British animation in general, and thinking about
the only thing that to me that comes to mind from animation is either VeggieTales or Prince of Egypt.
Yeah,
that's such a contrast.
Yeah, for Christian animation, that's all you think about. And I'm not even thinking of just doing stuff for Christians. I think Christians need to get out of that bubble of, oh, we're just making this for Christians. No, you have a world to reach. God has given you the gospel. God has given you a unique identity to show his greatness, to show his creativity. Target people outside of the church. Obviously start from a base, and everyone has different callings. So God might call you to target the church, which is fair enough. But unless you have a strong sense that God is specifically calling you just to serve Christians, always think bigger than just serving the church.
Very true.
And be an innovator in the wider world. That's my opinion on that. So that's where I'm aiming for. I'm thinking of animated content, episodes that are, one, not your stereotypical British animation. So in the way the characters look. And British animation has a history of subverting the Hollywood sort of an animation way of doing things. So we do have a history of doing quirky animations anyway. And I'd like to build that, I'd want to
make that even more.
Yeah. And also push the narrative in terms of racial representations of British people as well. I want to push that. I want to push the incorporation of music in animated series. So I was thinking of this adult animated comedy, which could be like a Netflix series or something, which is a humorous but truthful depiction of the variety of religions and cultures within modern day Britain. And it's told through a do you not understand the term hegemony?
No, I don't.
So that just means like the capitalist white male way of thinking that controls.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to tell stories through perspectives that subvert that dominant that white male narrative. Like, I have so many different ideas on what I want to do.
It's good to have so many ideas.
Yeah, and there's not just a Christian layer to it. There's so many other layers.
You've got to make it relatable. So, and you've got to be able to connect this back to an audience that will understand, and then maybe you can start introducing things. So But yeah, I would agree with a lot what you said there, and then I'd also think those goals are very good and very ambitious.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a little bit smaller. I just know that,
and that's perfectly fine. Like everyone's
individual.
Yes.
And I definitely would say that for myself, I have a lot of options. I have a lot of ideas. What's that saying? It's like I have a lot of ideas, like a lot of fingers in pies. I don't know what the saying is. I don't know. But it's sort of, I have a lot of things that I'm very I'm very ambitious about, and I have a drive for it. But I don't know necessarily what's going to happen, and I hope and I pray one day that maybe I will be able to create something that is of a sort of gospel sort of outreach and trying to evangelize to people. I'm not the best though. I'm not saying, I don't think it's a gift from me. I'm not too sure. I'm still finding my feet though. So it might be one day, but for now I'm just like, oh, it's quite exciting. And maybe I'd love to do a children's book on something related to Christianity. But I also do like doing other stuff as well. I do think that God will make it so, and he will make me go for a certain job. He will make me go for a certain opportunity. But I'm gonna ask, and hopefully with what I ask I will get an answer. When one door opens, another closes. I mean, when one door closes, another one opens. Got that mixed up. But yeah, I definitely would say I pray that whatever opportunity comes, that I take it. Or if I take it and it doesn't work out, that's fine.
And that's fine. And even again, just because one Christian might be having a certain level of success, I say success in inverted commas, and then another, just because your sphere of influence is smaller than another person's doesn't mean that your calling is less important.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say I'm
which
not
is
very
important for us to consider
exactly,
as uni students. Definitely.
You're quite very confident in proclaiming your faith and stuff. I am. I will talk about it, but I don't necessarily. I'm not the strongest. But at the same time, it's that whole sort of, what do you judge as success? And you can't judge success. It's like trying to trying to catch wind or something. You can't catch it. It's really hard to. Or was it trying to catch fog? I don't know. But I would say that success is not down to you. I don't strive for success now. I used to strive for success. Like, I want to be famous. I want to be the most well-liked. But now I'm like, no, I just want to be happy and enjoy myself. I want to have memories and stuff like that. I want to look back and be like, oh, that was so much fun. And I want to show that I had fun with something. I don't want life to be sort of day-to-day working hard, I don't know. But I definitely would say.
And there's a balance, especially for us, what you've said is viable, but some Christians take that to the extreme where it's like, oh, because there's so much more to me than my profession that I'm not going to try to break into the industry and be, there's that balance of God wants us to be content with where we are and who we are, but he also wants us to live life to the fullest. He also has a purpose for us on this earth. So it's just,
take every opportunity when you can. And if you think it's right, and if you've prayed about it and you think, I don't know, then so be it. But I definitely would agree with you there.
There's just a balance. So I think we're going to end it there. I'll just encourage any listener that success isn't just material. Look at the reason why you exist. Think about why you exist, what you're on this earth for, and judge success based on that. I think that's something that anyone can take away from this, regardless of what they believe in.
For sure.
And I'm happy about this moment because I think more young people need to have these conversations about where they're going.
It's quite interesting because we've been friends for 2 years now? 2 years since second year when you came to Derby, isn't it?
It's been nearly 2 years.
I remember being like, oh, it's a Christian. And I was like, oh, that's really good. But it's weird that we haven't had such a deep conversation like this before. But it's interesting to have other people's ideas and stuff. But no, it's been really interesting. Thanks for having me. And now I'm famous. I'm on a podcast. That's it, guys.
Yeah.
Here I come.
That's it, Helena's.
I'm going to be famous. Yes. No, I'm not. I'm not saying that at all. But anyway.
Yeah. We're going to wrap it up. Yeah. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Right.
It's been great. And to those listening, I just encourage you. Helena, are you okay with people messaging you after?
Yeah, they can message me on Instagram.
Okay. So maybe if I can share your...
Yeah, the link will be below.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
Click the link in the description.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm on Instagram. You can message me there. But I don't really have any pictures of Christian things on there.
But that's okay.
But each to their own, like we've already discussed. And I definitely would say, I think there's more to life, guys. So if you don't believe, why would we just become nothing? I don't think that. I think everyone is more important. I think God loves everyone.
Yes.
And as I am trying to do, and I think everyone else should try to do. And I definitely would say, investigate if you
pursue that relationship, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll end there. Thank you guys for listening. More interviews to come. And let's just keep the conversation going. You can message me about any questions about this episode and listen to the other interviews that I'm releasing around this time as well. And we're out. Thank you for listening, guys.